Was right? There we go. All right. Happy Sabbath. Good afternoon, everyone. Boy, we are really excited. There was a burden placed on our hearts with Pastor David and the staff to continue this month for mental health awareness, to provide additional support for our community, for our church members related to mental health and wellness. And so today I'm excited to have invited my friend Alexandra Coliani. Her and I worked together for several years at a couple hospitals and now again in another hospital system. But Alex comes with a deep love, not just for Jesus, but for her peers. And she and I work together currently. Alexandra serves as the behavioral health integration and behavioral health consultant for Ascension, Illinois. And so we're excited to have her here today to talk about our mental health needs. And I'll just start with a prayer, and then I'll invite Alexandra up, and we'll continue on today. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this opportunity to meet and discuss not only the spiritual wellness that you would have us seek you in a relationship every day, but also attend to those mental health needs too. Because we know that we are not separate people physically and mentally, but you give us the ability to be made one in you as a whole person. And so we just thank you for this opportunity to learn more about the beautiful creations we are. Amen. All right, Alexandra, welcome.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I have to say, I so enjoyed the service. I worked for the Adventist hospitals for several years and never attended a Saturday service. So that was my first. It was awesome. And as someone who used to lead a worship band, y'all have a good one. So, amen. All right, go to the next one. All right, so I'm Alexandra Coliani. I'm the clinical consultant for behavioral health integration for Ascension, Illinois. We used to be attached to the Adventist in a meetup, but now we are lonely Catholics over here on the Ascension side. But just to let you know a little bit about myself, I was a children's and youth minister, lay minister for the Episcopal Church for about 10 years. And during that time, I felt a little over my skis. And I didn't necessarily know how to start a conversation about mental health with youth or when they came to me, what to say. So I went and got my master's in counseling, thinking that I was going to go into full-time ministry and become an Episcopal priest. You know, God, he has a great sense of humor. That did not happen. I actually became a social worker after deciding that I wasn't meant to be a priest. And that is how I met Jeff. Jeff actually supervised me to become a clinical social worker. And so I have such great admiration and gratitude towards him as well. So I started off on the medical side. And when I was on the medical side, I saw so many mental health concerns not being met and not being addressed. And then I went on the behavioral health side, and they really had such a lack of understanding when it came to physical health. And I was like, oh, we got to do something about this. And so go to the next slide. They hired me about 3 years ago to be the clinical consultant for behavioral health integration. And my main role is to bridge the gap between the physical health world and the behavioral health world. And I say that I am leading the way to more compassionate healthcare through this work. So thank you. So it is such an honor to be here to talk about integrated health, because that is really how I approach mental health in a good fashion. I am a clinical social worker, and so I believe in the biopsychosocial spiritual design of humankind, and that's how social workers kind of assess or evaluate all the things that are going on in one's life. Because we want to know what makes you tick, who are you? What are you about? All that good stuff. Because we want to approach you in the most holistic, integrated way possible, because we know that your mental health is affected by all dimensions of wellness. Go to the next slide. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about what is mental health and do I have it? Raise your hand if you think you have mental health in this room. Okay, everybody's going to be raising their hand pretty soon. The Cinderella Complex, our wellness challenge, the 8 dimensions of wellness, quick self-assessment and goal setting, and then I never want anyone to leave any of my talks empty-handed, so I'm going to make sure that you have some resources to take away from this opportunity. Go to the next one. So, what is mental health? Mental health is our emotional, psychological, social well-being. It's how we act, how we think, how we feel. It helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make healthy choices. And just like our physical health, it is important to all people at any age group. Now, within Ascension, Illinois, we start seeing people on the mental health side at age 3 through the lifetime continuum, because we know that people experience stress at any age, right? And for a variety of reasons. And so we want to encourage their overall wellness. And we might come from a situation where, like myself, we had adverse childhood events. And that wasn't any fault of our own. You know, we may have had parents that weren't coping well and took their stress out on us. We might have had church leaders that told us not to be who we wanted to be or who Jesus called us to be. There might have been a lot of different things happening in our childhood that made us feel shame, made us feel like we couldn't be who we wanted to be, made us feel like we couldn't put Jesus at the forefront of everything. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. You can go to the next slide. So I said in the introduction that if COVID did anything for us, it helped us talk about mental health in a much more practical way. Anybody agree? All right. So now we talk about mental health on a spectrum. And this spectrum goes from mental wellness all the way to mental illness. Does anybody remember how many Americans I said have a mental health diagnosis? 1 out of 5. Very good. Y'all, we're listening. Hello. And so if you have anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, whatever it is, you may fall into the red. But did you know that even if you have anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, OCD, anything, you can get back into the green? Did you know that? Right, because it's not going to determine how you live your life forever, especially if you are tending to your overall wellness, okay? Go to the next one. So, the Cinderella complex. Y'all might have been like, why does this lady have Cinderella on her front screen? You know? Well, I have to tell you, the Cinderella complex is a real thing. It is when we have been through traumatic experiences and we want someone to rush in and take care of us or change our lives. Have a fairy godmother come in and twirl her wand and be like, oh, you're done, you're a princess. Unfortunately, right? And I have to tell you, I personally, as someone who had adverse childhood experiences and trauma in her life, I used to dream of this, right? That would be so amazing. But if you go to the next slide, we will start to think how that Cinderella complex is actually a trauma response. Unfortunately, no one is coming in and rushing in and saving our day without our participation, right? Without us kind of pulling up our big girl britches and carrying on and moving forward, all right? Because we have such a thing with trauma response as flight, fight, freeze, and fawn. And just as Pastor said that you're not responsible for the trauma that you have experienced, you are responsible for picking up yourself and moving on and recovering and healing, right? And so that is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the 8 dimensions of wellness and how you can integrate that into your life so that you don't fall into the Cinderella complex. And go to the next slide. So, 1943, there was this guy named Maslow. Anybody heard of Maslow before? Perfect. All right. So Maslow was a humanist. And while everyone else was psychoanalyzing everyone, he said, you know what? I don't care what makes people feel bad. I care what makes people feel good. And I want to start studying that. So he started developing the hierarchy of needs. He said at the very bottom, we need air to breathe, right? We need food to eat. We need shelter and sleep at the very bottom. On the next one, we need, go back. On the next one, we need safety. We need personal security. We need employment. We need our health. We need to feel physically and mentally safe. On the next one, we need love and belonging, friendship, intimacy, family, a sense of connection. And then we can start to develop esteem, more respect for ourselves, maybe more recognition and status, strength and freedom. And then on the very top, we can self-actualize. And Maslow, being the humanist that he was, he said, everyone has the desire to become the most that one can be, right? Who in here wants to be the best version of themselves at some point, right? Everyone has the desire to self-actualize. Go to the next slide. So that was in 1943. Unfortunately, in 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General, he reports that we are in an epidemic of isolation and loneliness, unfortunately. So even though in 1943, we knew, Maslow said we had to be, feel a sense of love and belonging, in 2023, we're kind of failing at that. And there are lots of different reasons why we're failing at it. It might be the internet. It might be the TV. It might be that we don't live next to our family like we used to. There are lots of different reasons. But I want you to know that humans are wired for social connection, and we have become more isolated over time. And everybody in here, give yourself a pat on the back right now, because you are choosing to be a part of a community here in Bolingbrook Church. So you, even though we are fighting an epidemic of isolation and loneliness, you are coming here to be a part of a community. Now, you are a part of a community, but do you still feel lonely? Do you still feel isolated? So that is when we need to really start looking at our dimensions of wellness again and seeing how we can build up our sense of respect and connection and all that. Okay? Go to the next one. So I always talk about wellness in general versus mental health, because mental health, it's kind of hard for people to wrap their minds around, ironically enough. Physical health, you know, good blood pressure, your blood panel's good, you know, you kind of can start to define physical health. Mental health is a little bit more pervasive in the way that it integrates its way into all the different dimensions of wellness. And so that's why I talk about wellness, because anything you do to boost your wellness, you are going to start to feel the endorphins, the serotonin, all those good feel chemicals are going to start working, and that's going to boost your mental health. Okay? So when I talk about wellness, there are two common questions that I get. What is wellness and how do I attain it? What do you think? What is wellness? Anybody? Balance, that's a good one, right? Okay, so we're gonna learn a little bit about the 8 dimensions and the great balance that we all have to have. And you attain wellness by not necessarily thinking about your physical health as what wellness is, but as a part of wellness. It's one of 8 of the dimensions. Go to the next slide. So this is the wellness wheel. This is based on the work that the Substance Abuse Mental Health Service Administration, SAMHSA, put out long ago. And it defines the 8 dimensions of wellness: intellectual, emotional, occupational, environmental, financial, spiritual, physical, and which one am I missing? Social. There you go. So, just like Jeff said, you have to have a good sense of balance. And all of these affect one another. And so, for instance, if you are having a bad day and you snap at someone at work, that might affect your social life later, right? Or if you are having a financial situation, it might affect your emotional level. That might affect your spiritual level, okay? But the opposite is true. Say you go to church and you meet somebody and they say, hey, I was thinking about going to have coffee after. Do you want to join me? And then y'all start to be social and you start to develop a friendship. And then they say, you know what? I was going to go to this, I don't know, mental health lecture later. You want to come? And then you start to listen more about mental health. And that might, get your gears turning. So you see how it can affect you negatively or positively. Okay? Go next. So I promised you 8 different ways of boosting your mental health. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to talk about the first one, which is cultivate joy. This goes to the emotional wellness. Go to the next one. This is related to emotional wellness, okay? Emotional wellness is the ability to explore and accept the world, your loved ones, and yourself just as they are, okay? It is being willing to ask for help. It is caring for your human needs. It is being able to explore who you are as a person, okay? And knowing that you want to improve over time. The reason I say cultivate joy, the next one, is because you cannot have joy, you cannot feel all the feelings of joy without being grateful. They're forever connected. Now think about something that you have felt joy about, okay? It might be your kids, it might be a new job, it might be whatever, okay? Think about that joy. And think about why you felt joy. It's probably because you feel gratitude, right? Okay. So think of something that you don't feel joy about, okay? All right? Something you do not feel joyful about. Now think of something that you're grateful about that situation about, okay? All right? Did you feel the joy? There you go. Joy and gratitude are forever linked. You cannot be joyful without feeling being grateful. You cannot be grateful without feeling joy. So this is something that we as humans, when we have a bias towards the negative as humans, we have to cultivate. We can go through life feeling negative about anything, right? We can go outside and say, oh, it's a beautiful day. The sun is shining. It's not cold. I don't have to wear my coat. Or we can go outside and be like, oh, it's so hot. I'm not ready for summer, right? It's the same weather. It's just how you are cultivating that joy, that perspective, all right? Go to the next one. So I want you to know, when you are starting to practice gratitude, I do not want you to should yourself. Now, this is a very technical therapy term that we use of not shoulding yourself, but what this means is don't tell yourself, I should feel grateful. I should feel this way. I should be that way. That's not gratitude. That's shame. All right? And so gratitude is not forcing positive emotions, AKA toxic positivity. It is not telling ourselves that others have it worse. Right? I love these aha moments. I live for them. And it is not shoulding yourself. I should feel this way. I should not feel this way. It is acknowledging the good in one's life, a helpful self-soothing practice, and a feeling and a practice, right? That's where the cultivating comes in. You feel grateful, but when you're not feeling grateful and you're not feeling joy, is there something you can be grateful about and feel joyful about? Okay, so it's a feeling and a practice, that cultivating joy. Make sense? Cool. All right, go to the next one. So, number 2 is save your pennies. Who has ever been a little kid with a big piggy bank? Anybody? Now, I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and nothing gives them more joy, I have to tell you, than putting pennies in that piggy bank. I don't know what it is, but they really love to feel the weight of that piggy bank. And we as adults, we don't get to feel the weight of our piggy bank because it's in the bank usually, right? We do feel the weight of the stress of not having enough in our piggy bank though, right? So that one, go to the next slide, talks about our financial wellness. The ability to meet basic needs and manage money for the short and long term, satisfaction with current and future financial situations, and just being able to sleep and get those 8 to 10 hours of sleep, not stressing about finances, right? So there are ways of doing this. Budgeting according to your finances, not overspending, completing estate planning, all sorts of things. And the biggest thing that Pastor David said today during the talk or the sermon, whatever you call it, he said, you know what? God has given me the best life I can live, but my Honda Accord shakes at every red light, right? Now, could he look like the coolest pastor ever in a BMW or Mercedes or a Range Rover? You could, right? Right? But could you afford and sleep at night knowing you have a BMW and a Mercedes that you cannot afford in your driveway, right? Because you probably couldn't have afforded that bike you got for your 5-year-old for her birthday, right? Or you would have put it on the credit card and just felt the weight of that, right? So go to the next one. Our financial stress leads to poor mental health. And poor mental health can lead to difficulty managing money. And the difficulty of managing money can lead to financial problems. And financial problems can lead back to stress. And that can make our mental health even worse. Okay? So, when my husband and I got married 10 years ago, neither one of us were billionaires. And we actually had credit card debt. We had student loans. We had lots of debt. We decided, the best thing that we ever did was to decide to go to an estate planner together, a financial planner, and there are all sorts of ones, but we only paid him for like the first year, I think $500. And now I have to tell you, 10 years later, we are closer to those 6 figures in that bank account than we've ever been before. And we are almost debt-free. Amen. So this can happen, and you can do it. But just like you need a therapist for good mental health sometimes, you need a financial counselor to start you on the right track and start to make your money work for you. Okay? All right, go. So here are ways to simplify your finances. Get more flexible in your budget, consolidate or close accounts, automate everything, go paperless, declutter your space, use apps to auto track expenses, perform a subscription audit. Now, this is one of my favorites, the subscription audit. Who knows this thing called DoorDash? Anybody know DoorDash? Okay, somehow I had a premium subscription to DoorDash, and I didn't even know that. I don't know how I signed up for this thing. I don't know. But I did an audit subscription, and now I am saving, I think, $20 a month because I did my subscription audit. So you never know. You might want to do that subscription audit. Look what's coming out of your bank account. Look what is going into your bank account. Try to find that balance. Okay? Go to the next one. Number 3, stay curious. Now, I had a great opportunity recently to see Martha Stewart live. Like, I got to sit in the audience, and this person got to interview Martha Stewart. So I'm not that cool. I wasn't the one talking to Martha Stewart. But the thing that Martha Stewart, do y'all know how old she is? 82. This lady is 82 years old and still traveling the world. And her best friend is like Snoop Dogg. And I mean, I hope I'm as cool as she is when I'm 82 or at any point in my life. But the thing is, she said what keeps her moving is staying curious. And so she might be 82 years old and still kicking, but she really credits that to staying curious and learning and being a lifelong learner. So go to the next one. So that relates to intellectual wellness, the ability to think critically and creatively while actively seeking new ideas and information that satisfy your curiosity and allow you to solve problems. It helps you to be open to new ideas. It helps you to research new topics. It helps you just be an interesting person overall. All right, we're gonna play a little game. Anybody like games? Cool. All right, we're gonna play this game. All right, can you name these high school courses? I think y'all are smart. I think you're gonna be able to do this, okay? Let's play. All right, when you know it, call it out. All right, oh, do we have any sound? Okay, it's okay, go ahead. We're going back to high school. Ready for a pop quiz? Can you name these classes? What class taught you how to effectively speak like a politician? And then you have to unscramble the words. What class taught you how to effectively, rhetoric. We called it debate, okay? What class showed where to find Antarctica? Geography, right? Good. Dun, 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 dun. All right, there you go, geography. What class taught the functions of angles? Trigonometry, okay. Let's see, smart people. Uh-oh. All right, that's okay. We can go to the next slide. Y'all get the point, right? Y'all were very quiet before. And when we started playing the game, y'all started laughing and enjoying yourselves. And, your mental health got boosted like that, especially when you knew it was trigonometry, right? There you go. So, congratulations, you're all smarty pants. And you can continue the fun later. All right. So, number 4, since we're all smarty pants now, we are going to set some SMART goals, okay? Anybody know what SMART stands for? There you go. Okay, let's learn. Next one. So this talks to our vocational wellness. All right. Notice I prefer to say vocational versus occupational because vocational is what you're called to do. It's where your passion and a need in the world meet. That's your vocation. And so where I thought I wanted to be a priest, and then I had nightmares that the priest collar was choking me to death, that kind of indicated that was not going to be my vocation, right? Okay. But what I really liked was being able to talk and encourage people and inspire one another, right? And so that was more of my vocation. Okay? All right. Work that utilizes a person's skills while providing personal satisfaction is valuable for society as well as the individual. So that is your vocation. All right. So it encourages us to seek out opportunities, activities, clubs, yada, 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 in order to fulfill this vocational calling. Go to the next one. Now, how do we do this? I had a wonderful, beautiful young lady come to me and say after the service, I just graduated from public health. What advice can you give me? And so I started, well, what do you want to do? What's your vocation? What are you called to do? So we started having this conversation. And then I started to help her identify her SMART goals on what the next step is. Because oftentimes we, especially in that age, if you are an adult or if you're in that age, you might remember feeling anxious during that time of, I don't know what to do. Where do I go? I just finished school, da, 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 da. And you do not need to know the next 25 years of your life. You just need to know the next goal that you have. And the next goal will lead into the next goal, which will lead into the next goal. And so where God has a great sense of humor and will lead you down your path of what you might not expect, you setting up goals just to get to the next step is what you are meant to do, okay? So SMART goals are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, all right? So specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. I have multiple sclerosis, okay? And I do not have a ton of energy all the time, right? So me being on the medical floor, running around constantly 5 days a week, really depleted my sense of energy. But I had a vocational call into healthcare. So I set a goal, right? I got my clinical social work degree. And then I set another goal and then another goal. And eventually I worked my way into a position where I can work majority of time from home and go out into the public and still engage with people and be able to maintain my physical health and my mental health simultaneously, right? So, like I said, God has a great sense of humor, and it might not be what you expect it to be, but eventually, if you're setting these SMART goals for yourself, your path will lead into your path with God. Okay? Amen? All right. So go to the next one, please. Number 5, play well with others. All right. Which one do you think this is leading into? Which dimension? Social, that's right. All right, go to the next one. So social wellness refers to developing a sense of connection, belonging, and a well-developed support system, the ability to create relationship boundaries that encourage communication, trust, and conflict management. It helps you make new connections, feel comfortable interacting with diverse individuals and groups, and bond over mutual interest. Now, I actually was having a conversation earlier today with my mother. She is almost 80 years old. I grew up in Alabama, and if y'all know anything about Alabama politics, we were steep in that growing up. That's what my parents did. They were in politics. And I personally am probably a little bit more progressive than my 80-year-old grandmother. Or she could be a grandmother. She is a grandmother. But my mother. And so we were actually having a conversation about, she said, did you hear this thing? And I told her, I said, Mom, I'm much more interested in what combines us as individuals than what separates us, okay? Because I truly believe that when we think about our mutual interests and what our human kind experience, we have so much more that combines us together than separates us. And so she was like, you know what? You're right. So that being said, I'm the youngest of four, and my mom has a real problem with her kids not going to church. I personally go to church. I'm the chair of the youth and family board at my church. I was a youth minister. I'm the favorite child. But I'm also the youngest of four, and 3 out of the 4 do not go to church. And so she has learned over time to talk about what combines us, right? So it's not the politics, it's not the church life, it's the love that we share for one another. It is our human family experience. It is all sorts of things. And so we actually start to stay away from certain topics when we are a family in order to be able to play well with each other, right? Because who wants a relationship where you're just yelling at each other all the time? Not me. Who wants a relationship where you just feel super awkward all the time? Not me. I want to know that, like, Jeff and I'm Lutheran, he's Adventist, and we still love Jesus, right? It doesn't matter to me if he's Adventist or Catholic or Lutheran or Jewish. It doesn't matter to me. But it does matter that he is inviting and inclusive in his spirit, right? Okay. Go to the next one. So if you struggle with social connection, this is a very easy way to start the conversation, even here within the community or at work. Hey, I was thinking about going to a movie, this movie that everyone's interested in, the Barbie movie. Let's say Barbie movie. Do you want to help me get a group together to go see the Barbie movie together? See? Now I invite you as community members to do this with each other and for y'all to say yes to one another, okay? Because that is going to be combating the epidemic of isolation and loneliness. Because I know that when I asked if you at times still felt alone in your church community, a couple of you nodded yes, okay? And that, I know, makes people sad to even think that someone might feel isolated or not included in something, right? So if you find someone that you're interested in or you want to be friends with, or, hey, someone that's sitting next by themselves, why don't you go and extend that love and that grace to them and invite them into a social gathering, okay? Did you know that, go to the next slide. Did you know that a psychological fact is men and women who have a best friend at work perform better than employees without any close relationships? Did you know? Who here has a BFF at work? Awesome. Okay, y'all are only 2 out of 10 Americans that have a best friend at work. Can you believe that? That's sad. And did you know that if you have a best friend at work, you are going to ride those bad days and be more resilient than someone who doesn't have a BFF at work? All right? So just food for thought that if you do not have a BFF at church or at work, maybe that is a part of your wellness dimension you might want to work on, okay? Go to the next one. All right, number 6, keep moving. Y'all are probably like, yeah, keep on moving. But when bad things happen and trauma happens, the best advice that I could give you is keep moving, right? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But I mean, that actually can be hard to live by, right? It's okay to take time for rest and rejuvenation as long as you don't stay there too long, okay? You just got to keep moving, pick yourself up. I always tell my girls, it's not how many times you fall, it's how many times you get back up. That counts, okay? Michael Jordan has this really great quote that says, I've failed more than how many millions of times, but y'all don't remember that. You only remember my successes, okay? Because he kept trying. He kept moving. he didn't let the failure define him. All right, go. So when you have a stroke or have MS or, I don't know, a lot of other things, you start to feel like you aren't capable of things. You're not capable of moving, of keeping up with everybody else. And in fact, in actuality, the more you move, the more capability you maintain. So if you have a stroke and you don't keep moving, you are going to succumb to atrophy and lose the ability to move. All right? So physical wellness is a lot more than what your blood panel shows. It's a lot more than just nutrition and sleep and all that stuff, even though that does encourage your physical wellness. It is the ability to maintain a quality of life that allows you to get the most out of your daily activities without undue fatigue or physical stress. Okay? So I get a lot of vocational value out of being able to go around and encourage people and speak about mental health. But like I shared with you, it helps me maintain my energy levels. So you have to figure out that balance for yourself and figure out what will encourage your physical wellness. Okay? So 7 to 9 hours of sleep, eating foods that make you feel good, and finding time to move that body. So y'all feel, see, she yawned. I knew it. Now it's time to keep moving. So we're going to do a chair stretch. Ready? For 5 minutes. Awesome. I know y'all love me, don't you? Okay. So go to the next one. Oh, we don't have sound though. Okay. Well, follow along for a few minutes. Okay. All right. Seated stretch. Y'all are yawning, so. She's telling you to ground yourself, which is a very specific therapeutic technique that we do of just putting our feet on the ground, flat, right? Are you a therapist? Teacher. There you go. All right. So she's trying to tell you to balance yourself, to be aware of what your body can do, to not overstretch yourself. All right. There you go. Oh, doesn't that feel good? There you go. Move. All right. Yeah, right? There you go. Oof. Right? So you are a physically active person, but stretching and paying attention to what your body is telling you is still so important. Right? All right. Okay. That's my favorite. Oh. Yeah. I'll tell y'all when to come back up. Oh, that's a long stretch when there's no sound. All right, there we go. Come back up. All right. There you go. There you go. Right? All right. So all those wonderful endorphins, serotonins, all those good feel chemicals are starting to be rejuvenated in your body because you are moving. So you may have been falling asleep or getting a little tired, but you start moving and it starts to rejuvenate your spirit, right? And your mind and your body. Because the mind, the body, the soul are all interconnected. Okay? All right. Go to the other side. You want balance. So if you only did one side, go to the other side. All right. Okay, good. All right. All right. Now twinkle your toes and your fingers and everything and come back to center. All right. There you go. Go to the next slide. Sorry. All right. Now, number 7 is enjoy the good. Go to the next slide. This really talks about environmental wellness. Because who has been in a situation where you just have like a really bad attitude and then you start to look around and start thinking of the things that you're grateful for and your whole demeanor changes? Thank you, sir. Right? It does. It helps. And so this talks about environmental wellness and leading a lifestyle that values the relationship between ourselves, our community, and our environment. So if we look around and we see some trash, like this lemonade that was left later, from the service probably, we might want to pick that up and improve our environmental wellness. We might want to be mindful of your water use and decluttering and cleaning your home. There's a study that shows that if you have a very messy home, it is an indicator that you have a very messy mind. Right? The cleaner you have your home actually lowers your stress levels, right? So if you are in a very anxious moment, cleaning actually helps you come back to center. Okay? So I have two little girls. They always are trashing my car. Any other mamas have that situation? And I'm always telling them, you need to clean this up because this is my car and you need to clean this up so I can have a clear mind to drive. But it is an ongoing situation. So if you're a child and you're trashing your mama's car, please clean your trash up. Okay? Thank you. But also, it could be about spending time indoors. There's a thing called seasonal affective disorder, right? And so when we in Illinois have it start to snow, it starts to be cold, it starts to be darker, we start to maybe experience that effect of seasonal affective disorder. But if you go to the next slide, if you have that situation happening, you can experience or exercise, practice, hygge. Anybody can say that? Hygge. There you go. The Danish art of creating joy and coziness in life's everyday moments, whatever the season or time of day. It is creating a warm atmosphere and enjoying the good things in life with good people. So that might be turning down the lights, creating the atmosphere. I notice here that y'all, when you come into service, y'all have the lights down low. Y'all are creating that atmosphere. Do things that create comfort. Provide togetherness. So in my family, we go to a Lutheran church, and we have Advent wreath. Do y'all know what an Advent wreath is with the candles and everything? So we create those at church the first week of Advent, and that is right around the time that it starts to get darker, and we put it on our dining room table. And so then every time we eat dinner together, we light those candles and we say a special prayer, and we have that togetherness. So that is hitting gratitude, harmony, atmosphere, togetherness, pleasure with that one simple act of the Advent candles and saying those special prayers. So that is an opportunity for us to experience hygge in our family life during the seasons change. Okay? Go on the next one. All right, number 8. Now, when I was talking to Jeff about this presentation, I said, I want to challenge people. I don't want to offend people, okay? So when I say this, I want you to know it comes from a very good place in my heart, all right? Good place. I truly think that God wants you to be you, period. Okay? I don't necessarily think that God wants us to be who society tells us we need to be. Okay? So that 20-something young woman who kept being told to be a priest and going through discernment to be a priest and was leading youth events and children's events to be a priest, that was really hard for me to say, I don't want to be a priest. Because that's not who God meant for me to be, right? And I had to stand up again and tell my church that. I had to stand up and tell my parents that. I had to stand up and tell everybody that. And that was really hard. But I had to be authentic in who I am and say, I have to be me. God is calling me to something else. So, number 8, be you. All right, go. That speaks to spiritual wellness. Now, everybody, give yourself a big hug. Oh. Now, go to the other side, because you know I like balance. All right. Now, I want you to hear me very clearly. You are valid. What you think, what you feel, who you are, everything about you is valid. You are meant to be in that chair. You are meant to be a part of this community. You are meant to be you. No one else can be you except you. My childhood best friend and I, we're from Alabama. We used to run around and say, be who you is, because if you is who you ain't who you is. All right? Can you see me like the 10-year-old running around? Be who you is, because if you is who you ain't who you is. Right? But it is so true. So no one else can define your values. No one else can practice your values. No one else can contribute positive to society like you can, because you were created by our Heavenly Father with your skill set, with your thoughts, with who you are, who He meant for you to be. So you have to be who you are. Now, a lot of times people think that you have to be religious to be spiritual, or I'm spiritual, I'm not religious. All spirituality is who you are, what you're about, and what you believe, okay? So sometimes, like for myself, Christianity is that answer to me, right? But for some who have maybe experienced religious abuse in the past, that might not be their path. They haven't come full circle yet. And we have to show grace and be patient, right? So I grew up in Alabama, which y'all know, and my parents had this best friend that did not go to church. And you know how my mama feels about people not going to church. But this is her best friend who did not go to church. And we just always had Sunday meals together, as we do in Alabama. We invite people over and we have Sunday meals. And I didn't know until I was older that she didn't go to church. But they just never made a big deal about it. But they still included her in the Sunday meals. They still invited her into our Sunday experience. And it wasn't until I was an adult that she said, you know what? Her name's Ann. Ann wanted to go to church with us. And my mom was like, what? And I said, okay, great. So she starts coming to church. And pretty soon, she decided to be baptized. And so my parents turned out to be her godparents. Isn't that cool? And I had a god sister as an adult. So you never know the great way that God is working through you, right? But in my experience, it's not through shaming people. All right? So allowing people to be who they are is also a part of spiritual wellness, okay? So it's not just who you are, but it's who they are as well, accepting them for who they are in the moment they are in it. Go to the next one. Anybody know who this is? Brene Brown. Oh, thank you. Appreciate you. I love her. Brene Brown is my social work hero other than Jeff Fish. She writes lots of different books. This one is Rising Strong as a Spiritual Practice. If you have not checked this out, check it out. It's really good. All right, go to the next one. In this book, she says, next slide. She says spirituality emerged as a fundamental guidepost in wholeheartedness, not religiosity, cannot say that word for the life of me, but the deeply held belief that we are inextricably connected to one another by a force greater than ourselves, a force grounded in love and compassion. For some of us, that's God. For others, it's nature, art, or even human soulfulness. I believe that owning our worthiness is the act of acknowledging that we are sacred. Perhaps embracing vulnerability and overcoming numbing is ultimately about the care and feeding of our spirits. What do you think is the leading cause of substance use disorder? Shame. Yes, is the numbing. That is what they're looking for originally. Substance use disorder, the number one cause is shame. Okay? Those chemicals start to interact and be very sick. It is a disease to the point where they think that they need that substance like you and I need air. It has turned their brains into a situation that they are not able to be as spiritually well as we would pray for them to be. Okay? So when we're talking about being you and allowing others to be themselves, I really encourage you to lay off the shame. All right? There is nothing wrong with being mentally ill or having a substance use disorder or any of that stuff. It really most often is related to trauma and to shame. So loving people for who they are, where they are, is so pivotal to anyone's recovery and spiritual wellness. All right? So, let's keep on feeding people's spirits. Okay? All right, go to the next one. We can't watch this video, but it's so good. It's so good. So Google Manifesto of the Brave and Brokenhearted. Okay? We're all brave. We're all brokenhearted. It is not how many times you fall, how many times you get back up, right? And having the permission to let go of who you think you're supposed to be and embrace who you truly are. All right? Go to the next one. Oh, you skip that one. So, we have these worksheets. How are we doing on time? Are we like way over? Sorry. Everybody had a good time so far, though? Okay, good. We have these, remember those SMART goals that I told you about? What did it stand for again? Yep, relevant and time bound, all right? So you have these sheets that we're all passing out. And what you want to do is don't cheat off of each other. No, if y'all are sitting too close to each other, move away. This is just for you, okay? The more you shade, the more you feel confident in that dimension. The less you shade, the less confident you feel about that dimension. Make sense? The more you shade, the more confident. Less you shade, the less confident. And you want to really tap into your mind, your body, your soul. They're saying that my dog is done being groomed. Sorry. And you want to think about those SMART goals and the little dimensions. And so go ahead and shade. And then the ones that you haven't shaded in the most, pick 3 of those. And that is going to lead you to your SMART goals. Because remember, we have a wellness challenge. So We want to be shading in all the dimensions, and the ones that we feel less confident about, we're going to pick 3 of those dimensions, and then we're going to pick one SMART goal related to each of those dimensions that we picked out of the 3. And they are going to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So if you have MS like me and your doctor doesn't want you running a marathon is probably not what you want to pick as your goal for your physical wellness challenge. Okay? All right. So raise your hand when you're done, just so I know, picking those three dimensions. And then you go to the next. Yep. And I'm going to assign the time bound. It is, we're getting out of school right now. So, right? So the time bound is going to be when people start school again in the fall. All right? So this is what you're going to do over the summer. And we're not going to share these. Don't feel like you have to share them. If you want to share them with your pastor during spiritual counseling, that's fine. But we're not going to share them today. It's just for you. We're going to give you 1 more minute to do that. And go to the next slide. All right. So this is just a reminder of what the dimensions are, what their definitions are. And again, this is based on the Substance Abuse Mental Health Service Administration's research. SAMHSA is what we usually call it. And you can Google SAMHSA Wellness Wheel, and more information will come up on this. Okay, because we're running out of time. Go to the next one. Next slide, please. There we go. So I say that I never want someone to run out of the door without something in their back pocket from one of my talks. So this is the community support one. Go to the next one. Anyone heard of 988 before? Yeah. Yes. There you go. So what is 988? It is you can text it, you can call it. It will connect you to, in our area, local services, but a crisis counselor that can talk you through economic, physical, mental challenges and give you advice or just listen 24/7. So if you're struggling with finances at 2 a.m. and you cannot sleep and you need to reach out and connect, 988. Okay? 911 is an opportunity if someone is not safe and they're in immediate danger of hurting themselves or others. That is a 911 call. But anything else, you can call 988 for. And then we have a resource support line, 211. And then we have the local mental health and substance use hotlines. So the National Alliance of Mental Illness, NAMI, is a wonderful place to start if you have any questions about mental health, if you're struggling with mental health, if a loved one of yours is struggling with mental health and they don't want to get care. NAMI is a great grassroots organization to help support those situations. Go to the next one. Next one. And then SAMHSA. Yep. And there are lots of support groups online now. If COVID did anything for us, it put everything online. So there are lots of opportunities for support groups too. The biggest thing that I want to make sure that you know is that I would never want you to make a permanent decision for a temporary situation. And there is always someone to connect to. Always. 988, your pastor, your friend, there's always someone to talk to. Do not make a permanent decision for a temporary situation because this too shall pass. All right, go to the next one. And if you need us, we're at Ascension Illinois Behavioral Health, that 855 number. You can call it and ask any question. No question is too silly or too complex for us. Call the 855 number. We will help you identify the closest mental health support in your area. We will connect you to support groups. We will connect you to anything. This is a community support service that we provide through Ascension Illinois, and we want you to use it. So call 855, totally free to get the advice. Okay? Go to the next one. Go to the next one. I want to tell you about this really awesome thing. It's called the Crisis Stabilization Unit. It's at Mercy in Aurora, and it is the first of its kind in Illinois. It is an observation unit for those people who do not need inpatient stabilization. They just are in crisis, and they just need someone to be with them. Maybe restart their medication, maybe start them on medication, have a safe place to be. You can go to the observation unit and just talk with them, and it is an admission under observation, so you can't just leave, at any time. But their goal is to discharge you within 23 hours if you're 18 years and above. 23 hours, and you will have seen the psychiatrist, the social worker, the nurse, everybody, and have a discharge plan back into your community. So this is a great service that we just started a year and a half ago. So if anybody needs that, know that it's there, okay? Go to the next one. And then these are my great colleagues. If you need anyone to reach out to about eating disorders or substance use disorders, Shannon Stowasser is amazing and a wealth of wisdom and compassion. Kelly Weber is the older adult person and the adult person, so dementia, Alzheimer's, bipolar disorder, whatever. She's your go-to. Donna Bartlett, child and adolescent. Remember, we start at age 3. But she was a truancy officer for many years before she was a social worker. And she's so compassionate and so wise as well. So she is a great one to go to. And then if you're a professional and need some continuing education units, we have a AVID CEU program within Ascension Illinois Behavioral Health, and we would love to educate you on integrated health. So thank you so much. I'm open to questions. I appreciate your time and attention.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. We are going to stop the recording and the stream here. If you guys have questions for Alexandra, she has agreed to stay on and answer those questions for you guys. So thank you so much for those who have tuned in. And all of you that are here, if you have questions now, we can take those as well.
All right. Jeff is very wise himself, so he could answer these as well.